think this is such a cool idea. I am beyond excited to be a part of this. Thank you so much for including me. This is really, really cool. I love spontaneous projects like this. So allow me to introduce you to my library, which my father was kind enough to build for me. He is not a bookshelf builder by trade. He sells carpet for a living. But when I moved in here, because I own an independent book publishing company, Gen Z Publishing, and I have a doctorate in literature, and now I actually train AIs on philosophy. That's a story for a different day. But he built this for me. And so this houses a lot of my favorite books. I have them organized by genre. And so I thought, what better place for spontaneity than here, and to talk about some of the ideas and some of the things housed here. One of my favorite quotes that came from one of these books actually is from, her name is Sister Kawaki. And I'm not religious, but I read a lot of different books from a lot of different viewpoints, because philosophy, training the AIs in philosophy, and also I studied philosophy in grad school. And so, you learn a lot of different viewpoints. And basically the thesis of what I read from her was that there isn't anyone that you wouldn't love once you learn their story. And from my experience reading these books, I do think that's true. Once you get, the other sides, or the better understanding of what makes somebody the way they are, it's just the understanding that, I don't know, I at the very least, I always say everybody has some good in them, There's another quote, that everything done in the world is out of hope, which can sound kind of like, I don't know, the cheesy, but it does make sense. A baby couldn't grow up and thrive without the parents' hope of nurturing them to growth. A society couldn't thrive without our hope of thriving. Everything is based on a system of hope. And so I have this philosophy section here where, such a big question is, what is the meaning of life? One of my favorite meanings that was given is Aristotle said the meaning of life is happiness. But more recently, I've been subscribing more to the idea that that's the wrong question. We live in a materialist 3D, 4D world. It may not necessarily be for us to get. We may be asking the wrong questions, kind of like they said in Douglas Adams. They asked for the meaning of life, and spoiler alert, it's 42. It's absurdly funny. And I think, a lot of people can get into patterns of negative thinking, nihilism, all the things that come along with that, existential crises, because they think, there's no meaning, everything is meaningless, and they lose their hope. But meaning is a 3D concept that we have here, and that entitles us to create our own meanings. And so if you're anything like me, when I personally discovered that, I made a bucket list. I'm like, okay, here's everything I want to do. I want to break a world record. I want to sing on national TV. I want to publish a book. But I got so caught up in the pursuit of happiness through these things that I started to forget about the happiness in the pursuit. As corny as it sounds. The other thing is my bucket list didn't look like a lot of other people's, right? I'm not somebody who likes to travel. I'm not somebody who's going to be skydiving. And so when other people were making their bucket list and they're saying things like, I'm going to go rock climbing and climb Mount Everest, and they would say to me, why don't you have travel on there? Comparison was a little bit of a thief of joy, because I'm like, am I doing something wrong? But then some of these books taught me to keep my gratitude higher than my expectations. My favorite musician in the world is Jack White, and he actually, it's part of the Dead Weather, this quote, but it's his band. Bubblegum in your hair isn't fair, but it smells good. I love that. Like, you can always find something good in any situation. I know it's corny and cliche, but I find that cliches are often cliches for a reason. And even saying that is cliched. And that's why you don't base your life on one-line philosophies, but they can be helpful guides. I have a whole section here of science books. I actually started out as a biomedical science student. And then the more I learned, the more I really fell in love with philosophy. And the more I realized how much philosophy and science are speaking the same language in a lot of ways. And I'm not going to get too deep into it because it does get a little bit into theisms and religious themes and things like that. And I, don't know what your personal beliefs are, but I will say there is a lot of overlap, especially with some of these newer theories. And I do feel like AI is bridging the gap. So I know a lot of people are afraid of AI. And as somebody in the publishing industry, I think a lot of people just automatically assume that I must be. But no, I see AI not as competition. A lot of people think it's going to put us out of work or worse. I think it's not going to be that at all. It's going to be a co-collaborator. I see a lot of positivity as somebody who talks to AI every day, training it in philosophy. That's literally, it's the coolest thing. I will read something from this book and then create questions out of it and talk to the AI about it and just have a conversation about it. That's what I've been doing. And it's amazing. And that's what's making me really optimistic about the future. And that comes from a lot of these theories, but also just experience. So one of my favorite quotes is, "The loudest in the room isn't necessarily the one to listen to." And as an introvert, yeah, I think that can often be true. Of course, for new tech like AI, but even for something creative, like a project that, somebody is launching. And, you might have people or naysayers say, that's been done before. What are you spending your time doing that? But no time spent doing creative work is time wasted. Your mind will answer most questions if you relax and wait for the answers. Thanks again for including me in this project. Please keep in touch. I think I'm running out of time here, but please keep in touch. I'm super excited about this, and thank you for including me.